Hello everybody, my name is Steve Walls and I'm a licensed counselor in the state of Colorado. Today we're going to be covering anger and determine whether or not it is ruining your life. Along with that, we're going to be going over some tips to help you along the way if you've got problems with anger. Is anger ruining your life? Is it destroying relationships? Is it damaging your work relationships or home relationships, your family relationships? Is it getting you into legal trouble? If you answered yes to any of these questions, well then on some level, anger is ruining your life. You know, anger by itself can be a healthy, very productive part of our being, right? It's a very human response. So this isn't about whether or not you get angry, it's about what you do with your anger. Anger's super healthy, super appropriate, and can be very productive. So what I look at when somebody comes into my office is that anger constructive or destructive? And I break that down in a number of ways. You know, to me, destructive anger, or maybe even like what you would call a more aggressive stance, right, would be acts of violence, personal attacks on a person, threats, right? Those are angry behaviors that tend to be not the most pro-social, right? They're the ones that have lasting consequences for people and affect people on the other side of it, and have nasty consequences for the people who have the anger as well. So what is healthy versus unhealthy anger? Unhealthy anger attacks the person, not the problem. So they might say, Steve, you no good son of a bitch, you're 5 minutes late for your appointment. So at that point, they're attacking the person, not the problem, right? They're calling me a no good son of a bitch. So now let's look at productive anger. Productive anger uses assertiveness, right? It attacks the problem, not the person, right? So in productive, healthy, assertive anger, what we're looking at is, hey, Steve, I love you, but I don't love you being late to our appointments. Can you work on that? It strictly addresses that. At that point, it becomes constructive instead of destructive. It becomes destructive when you attack the person, not the problem. So then you get into name calling, you get into threats of physical violence and or even physical violence. So that to me is when anger is ruining your life. So let's say that you've had problems with some of this somewhere in your life in the past. It could be blowing up on coworkers or bosses or a spouse or a mate. Well, if that's the case and you are blowing up on friends, family, coworkers, it's costing you jobs. Maybe some people even get in some legal problems with this, right? Here's what I'm gonna say. There's a path out of this. And that path goes as follows. The very first thing that a person needs to do is take ownership and say, I'm an angry person and it's affecting me in bad ways and it's affecting the people I love in bad ways. And that is the first step towards changing and growing. So if you're a person who can acknowledge this, like right now, right here today, own it. Just own it right now. Just anger is a problem in my life and I want to fix it. It's that simple. That's the first step, okay? So the next step would be to educate yourself. And what I will say is this, generally speaking, there's a trigger. So people become activated into anger out of some form of a trigger. And it's important to start to recognize what kind of things trigger your anger. So to find that out, just look at, when do you mostly get anger? Is it with certain people? Is it in certain situations? You know, is it when you're in traffic and somebody's tailgating you? Is it when you're at home with your spouse? Is it more at work with one coworker? You know, begin to identify the trigger. For me, for example, one trigger is people standing real close. We live in a small town, and especially after COVID, just from like being used to having so much space for so long and being a person who loves space, now when people get too close, I feel like I'm getting suffocated and I start to get angry. So for me as a therapist, you know, I've worked through all of this stuff for the most part. What I'm going to tell you is when you're triggered, you want to start to identify what kind of things do you notice in your body when you get angry. So think back to the last time you were angry. Maybe you noticed your breath shortened a little bit. Maybe you noticed that your heart started beating faster. Maybe you noticed the muscle in your jaw right here got tight. You grit your teeth, right? Maybe you make fists or curl your toes. All of those things can be an indicator that your anger response has been triggered, right? So once you know that you've been triggered or activated, there's been an activating event, and you can recognize it in your body is like your check engine soon light. When you notice that your jaw is tight, or you notice that your heart's beating fast, or that you're making fists, that's your body's check engine soon light coming on saying, you are angry, you need to get into the shop before you blow up. You've got to de-escalate yourself and de-escalate the situation. And you do that by removing yourself from the situation. Physically removing yourself from the situation whenever possible, if you're a person whose anger is ruining your life. So let's say for a second that you're in a situation where you cannot remove yourself from a situation. So in those situations, the first thing that you want to do is begin counting backwards from 99 in threes. It forces the blood out of your primitive centers and moves it back into your frontal lobes region. And you can encourage that more so by doing semi-complicated math. Like, you count backwards from 99 in threes. 99, 96, 93, 90, 87, right? Somewhere along the line, you kind of forget what you were mad about. Your brain needs a little vacation from what's going on. Another one that I use quite a bit is just what we call, it's belly breathing, but what you want to do is you want to feel the inside of your rib cages. So you want to feel the inside of your rib cage push out as you breathe in. So you take a few deep breaths. And you feel your rib cages just move out. So take 3 to 5 nice big breaths and just feel your rib cage move out and back in. So that would be another one. Just real quick, if you guys want to see more videos like this, hit the subscribe button below. You can also do these if you've removed yourself from the situation and that you would like to de-escalate yourself a little quicker. Once you've done all of this, what I want you to do is I want you to start looking at debriefing yourself. So anger is a secondary response to fear or feeling threatened in some way. So you can't have anger without fear or sadness or shame, typically. So if you're feeling really anxious or activated and angry, chances are there's something you feel threatened by. So it might be the guy that's standing too close to me. I don't know if he's a bad guy or a good guy. I don't know. He might have a gun in his pocket, or he might have a knife in there and try to stick me up for all of my money, right? So like I look at that and I go, well, I was in the grocery store. What's the likelihood that that guy was trying to stab me? Not very high. Okay, well, the guy just wasn't respectful of my space, so he's a disrespectful human being. Well, then I'm mind reading. I'm sort of trying to read this guy's mind and say, so this guy's like, I don't have any respect. No, doesn't really work like that either. Could just be a guy who is spatially unaware because his bubble is really small and mine is really big. So in conclusion of all of this, is your anger ruining your life? Is it destructive or constructive? Are you using assertiveness or are you being aggressive? Are you attacking the person or are you attacking the problem, right? Notice that when we get angry, that there's an activating event or trigger, and those tend to cluster together. So people tend to get triggered or pissed off about the same things or the same situations. So start to recognize the theme and start to work on it when you're in those environments. Next, identify, your body response, the trigger inside your body. Remove yourself from the situation whenever possible. Count from backwards from 99 in threes. Ask yourself what you're afraid of. Deep abdominal breathing. Notice the inside of your rib cages when you do that. I hope this has all been helpful for you guys. I'll see you down the road.